Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday.
Good morning, and we got a lot of news coming up. We got a big debate last night, and everybody's talking about all the candidates.
That's right. We're going to break it down for you. All that coming up today on Rising.
First Democratic debate was last night. It was feisty, but did it move the needle? I suppose it depends on your perspective. The first question went to Senator Elizabeth Warren, and you could argue that she came out swinging. But there were some surprises on the stage as well. Julian Castro, Cory Booker, Amy Klobuchar. Lots of people made their marks last night. Immigration, women's, reproductive health, climate change, they were all touched on by the 10 Democratic presidential candidates who hit the stage.
During the 2-hour debate, each also got the opportunity to describe the greatest existential threat to the United States.
The biggest geopolitical challenge is China, but the biggest geopolitical threat remains nuclear weapons.
The biggest threat to the security of the United States is Donald Trump, and there's no question.
The greatest threat that we face is the fact that we are at a greater risk of nuclear war today than ever before in history.
Two threats, economic threat, China, but our major threat right now is what's going on in the Mideast with Iran.
Our existential threat is climate change. We have to confront it before it's too late.
Climate change.
Yeah.
Nuclear proliferation and climate change.
China and climate change.
China, without a question, they're wiping us around the world economically.
Russia, because they're trying to undermine our democracy, and they've been doing a pretty damn good job of it, and we need to stop them.
But perhaps the greatest threat to the debate itself were actually audio issues.
Should there be a role for the federal government?
Their other mics are on.
Everybody's mics are on. I think we have I heard that too. That's okay. I think we had a little mic issue in the back.
Clearly, the president was watching. He tweeted about the quote. He tweeted, "quote horrible technical breakdown." That was, in his words, truly unprofessional. But Jamal, I'm guessing you have some more sublime thoughts on last night's debate. What's on your mind?
Just a couple of thoughts. Debate night one's in the books. Former Housing and Urban Development Secretary Julian Castro was the biggest surprise to me of the first Democratic debate. Castro is usually retiring and somewhat soft-spoken, but last night he came out swinging on the issue of immigration and challenged former Congressman Beto O'Rourke in particular directly on that immigration topic. If there was a winner, it was Castro, because he put himself on the map in a way that I wasn't thinking about him before, and I think many others weren't either. There were other winners too. Elizabeth Warren held her own, and Cory Booker proved he had some fight left in him. Other candidates like New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio and Senator Amy Klobuchar scored points. But de Blasio got a lot of blowback from a lot of women in my social media feed. The candidates who didn't score any big points should remember that there's still time. Former President Barack Obama was the pits at the debates when he first got started. Back in 2007, Hillary Clinton wiped the floor with them. She was the champion on the debate stage. But by the end of the year, he was pretty much ready to go. So time to eat your Wheaties, people. Time to muscle up. A lot of work to do.
Why were women mad at de Blasio, Jamal?
I think they thought he was jumping in too much. He was being a little bullying. He didn't really, he wasn't really sharing the stage. He was just being a little too aggressive for the moment.
Well, Amy Klobuchar did have that. I mean, I'm not saying I necessarily agree with it, where she's like, I think a few of the women up here have fought pretty hard for women's reproductive health, which was for a Democratic moment, that was pretty good.
She did. I think there's going to be a lot of room to grow for some of these candidates. I thought Elizabeth Warren did well. I didn't think she was great though. I think that second hour where she was kind of left out of the conversation diminished her, but she had done so well in the first part, and nobody really attacked her. In which case,
I was expecting it. What about Cory? How did Cory Booker do for you?
Oh, I think he did well. I think Cory Booker showed that he was stronger. His love and hope and stuff. He was being much more. He was being much more feisty in that conversation last night.
Interesting.
Yeah. All right. So you got a little bit more. You watched the debate. I'm sure you had a different takeaway.
I did have a bit of a different takeaway. Okay. We're talking about immigration extremism. Now, I'm also talking about Julian Castro's breakout moment. He had a challenge last night to all of the candidates on the stage. Let's take a listen to what he said.
Let's be very clear. The reason that they're separating these little children from their families is that they're using Section 1325 of that act, which criminalizes coming across the border, to incarcerate the parents and then separate them. Some of us on this stage have called to end that section, to terminate it. Some, like Congressman O'Rourke, have not. And I want to challenge all of the candidates to do that.
I've talked about this on the show many times. This is a radical standard. Decriminalizing illegal crossing of the U.S.-Mexico border is completely out of step with the American electorate. Donald Trump was elected to the White House on two issues, immigration and trade. Somehow Democrats have taken away from the 2016 election that they need to decriminalize illegal crossing amidst the greatest immigration crisis in this country in the last decade. And it's important to remember, this immigration crisis is substantively different. It means that almost 1 million people that we are on track to let into this country per year cannot be deported for years and years. This standard is the greatest pull factor that we will ever see from the Northern Triangle countries. And I wonder, Jamal, why is it that, I mean, it was a breakout moment for Julian Castro, but to set that standard on that stage, I guarantee that standard will be brought up in tonight's debate. Is that really where the party wants to be heading into the general election against President Trump?
In general, I don't think what Democrats are trying to do is come up with a Trump-light strategy, right? I think what Democrats are trying to do is come up with an alternate course away from where Donald Trump is trying to head us. Sometimes that course might be a little too alternate, but the course is like, let's not just play Donald Trump's game and try to appeal to the worst parts of the Trump coalition. Let's try to offer a different course and get the people who just didn't like Hillary Clinton, the people who just weren't very happy, wanted to throw the middle finger up at the system and went for Donald Trump. Let's do something that appeals to those folks, and let's let Trump handle his own base.
Well, what baffles me is like somebody like Elizabeth Warren. I talked about this a lot yesterday. She understands you have to protect American jobs. She understands you have to protect American industry. But for some reason, protecting the border is something that they just cannot stomach. And the funny thing is if they embraced some sort of mild immigration restriction, or even just like really believed in enforcing the laws and saying, yes, we're a nation of laws, but the way the president is doing it is far too out of step, or oh, this is such a mishmash and it's terribly run. I mean, that's a very receptive message to many people who voted for the president, right?
Well, I think a lot of people on the Democratic side would say, yes, let's protect the borders. Barack Obama did it for years. The question becomes then, what do you do about the people who are here? What's the comprehensive strategy to deal with the people who are coming? And how is it that we can make life a little better in the countries where they come from so they don't feel the necessity to come here? So it's a big number.
I think the Castro standard, and I guess that's what I'll start calling it, is really going to come back to bite the Democrats, particularly Elizabeth Warren for taking that pledge. But we'll see.
We will see.
Next on Rising, Hill TV's Crystal Ball is in Miami covering the debates. She'll give us the atmospherics and her impressions from the ground,
including the audience's reaction to some of the viral moments and which candidate stood out to Crystal. All this when Rising continues.